All right, all right. That's that sound. That's that sound. We're in the championship rounds with King Amin of Essex 1. We talk about boxing news and everything in between. Hosted by Jay. Of course, we're in season 3, round 1. You know, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but you know, we're gonna just break the interviews up. So, like we said before, we got a special guest. You know, Philadelphia Boxing Writer of the Year, 2012 to 2019. Howard University Law School graduate, Harvard Business School graduate, and definitely known as the Pope of Pugilism on IG. We definitely want to welcome back after a short break, Mr. George Hanson. You know what I'm saying? George Hanson Jr.
Thank you.
All right, so listen, as we got broken up, everybody understands technology in these days. I was kind of setting it up for you guys to give your thoughts about Blair, affectionately known as Blair the Flair, Blair Cobbs story. Basically, I'm not going to run through every specific detail, but a very interesting article in terms of his young life growing up and the struggles that he had to overcome, after his father was arrested by the DEA. And subsequently, he ended up going on the run, moving to Mexico. Being around the sport of boxing, being around specifically, they kind of talk about the smoking kind of boxing events, the unsanctioned events, being around the sport, starting to train. They were talking about how he trained often and then coming back to New Jersey, beginning to train in Philadelphia, developing, that local kind of story in terms of that story there, all up into the present in terms of making his debut in 2013 and winning by KO, right? So there's a lot of nuggets that are left out. There's a relationship with Bernard Hopkins there. I think he's fought a couple of fights at 2300 Arena. So there's a lot of history there, a lot of nuggets that were left out. That was like almost a 10-page story. So let's start with you, King Amin. What did you think about Blair the Flair Cobbs story? What interested you in this story, and what kind of drew you to this first and foremost?
Well, the thing, Blair, he just fought recently. Let's talk about that. And a lot of people seem to think he won by losing. So most people knew about his personality. He got the wild hair. He's a fair-skinned brother. You know what I'm saying? It's called him Red from the 5 Heartbeats. So, okay. And we just talked about how in boxing you need personality, right? How do you sell yourself? Well, Blair's got personality. I can imagine in high school, you know what I'm saying? He was a class clown, yada, yada, or an entertaining kid to be around. But the point of it is that I was drawn into his character. And then I had seen him fight respectfully. I wasn't, particularly, impressed like he was going to be a world beater. Actually reminds me a lot of Rolly Romero as far as kind of being that awkward, flat foot-ish type of style, wild puncher. And they talk greasy. So, just those kind of guys, I always try to tend to dig deep and peel a few layers back. But when I got to know a little bit about his background, listen, like I say, so famous, boxing saves lives. And it's no doubt about it. Had this young man not have immersed himself in boxing, it ain't no telling all the kind of things he could have got himself into. And I know George, being in Philly, the Pope of pugilism, has crossed paths with Blair Cobbs. So I know he could tell us a little bit more than I know for sure.
And Blair the Flair, I covered his 4th fight, and he was trained by my good friend that I grew up with, Kenny Mason. It's an incredible story, and I love reading boxing stories. I've read Archie Moore's stories, Sugar Ray Robinson, but he reminds me of Jack Johnson, really. Jack getting on the road when he was a young man, moving to New York, hanging out with gangsters, having all those affiliations, going back to Texas, end up fighting. It's a remarkable story. It just says a lot about Blair, this indomitable spirit, willing to overcome, got into boxing, was homeless for a while, lived out his car. It's a remarkable story. My only thing is, if Blair the Flair Cobb would allow me to write the screenplay, call it, it's going to make a hell of a movie. And
Yeah.
his career is not over. He just lost his first fight. But Blair is a gifted fighter, right? There's some things he can tighten up on, right? He didn't disgrace himself. Man's been undefeated. Extremely entertaining. He understands marketing, marketability. So it's a great story for this young man to have gone through all he has gone through, to overcome and still end up on the big stage. So I just think Blair is just a remarkable young man with the great spirit of overcoming all odds. And as Amin said, boxing saves lives. So I'm a Blair Cobbs fan. I'm going to tell you.
George, I got a question for you. You know, as a casual fan, what does he do well in the ring? When you go
does well in the ring, man.
For his fans, where do they go? If they go to a Blair to Flair fight, what are they gonna see?
You're gonna see the unexpected. You're gonna see him dancing, the hair flying. He has punching power.
Okay.
And it can tell, you know, Blair came up in the WWF era, and the man has the gift of gab.
Okay.
And he's entertaining. Blair understands. How can we put it? Blair is the gorgeous George of the boxing era. And that's who Muhammad Ali took the blueprint from. He's entertaining, charismatic, looks good, fights well. It's Blair the Flair.
And he has an awareness and a work ethic that, from reading from that story, the sacrifices he made when things weren't going well. So he wasn't above taking a job as a cashier, just working in a grocery store, you know what I'm saying? Out in South Jersey, you know what I'm saying? Just regular guy working at a Walmart or working, you know, as at food services. Like, that takes, you know, a level of determination mentally where he never quit on himself. Then he ended up having a child, you know, being with his lady. I mean, these are things that people, when they have foundations, they may or may not be able to last or push themselves through. So for all the adversity he had, I mean, that's why, again, he won in a loss because we still talking about it. And that's why I brought this up as a topic for the show. Resiliency is crazy. And I believe that Blair Cobbs, and especially if boxing fans, you know, respectfully, if they change the way they think about that don't mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? You cannot throw a fighter away after a loss. And I think they should expect more. So the part of the story with Blair Cobbs is, what does he do next?
You stole my question, because that was my question for you and George. What's next for Blair to Flair? What's next?
What's next for Blair to Flair? First, I think after seeing this interview, Blair the Flair should call Amin up and myself, and we start writing the screenplay. It's a remarkable story, man. Somebody in Hollywood is going to pay money for it.
Oh, 50 is probably going to put it out. 50 is probably going to do it.
It's an incredible story. And having met Blair and having watched Blair fight, it's an incredible story. We talk about resiliency. The man packed up and moved from Philadelphia to Las Vegas with his girlfriend. They had no place to live. They lived outside and camped outside. And he said it's the happiest and most peaceful surrounding I've ever had. And he said, you know, my girlfriend stuck with me and we were happy. Blair the Flair has overcome so much, and he's entertaining, man. And he's a happy, you got to love the guy. So what's next for Blair? One loss doesn't define a career. Bernard Hopkins lost his pro debut. Henry Armstrong lost his pro debut. We've seen other fighters like Ebanie Bridges, who lost her first fight at the world title and bounced back yesterday to win the IBF Bantamweight title. One loss doesn't define a career. So I'm looking forward to the next chapter of Blair the Flair Cobbs. And if it's not in boxing, he has a hell of a career in entertainment.
And look, I'll throw a couple bouts out there from cats that might be interested. I'd like to see Blair the Flair and Adrian Broner. Can you imagine the press conference, right? If we can get Broner to, you know, some semblance of readiness for the fight, could be entertaining. 147. So notice the kind of guys I'm picking out for this fight. Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman and Blair the Fair. That's the battle of the, you know what I'm saying?
Man, here you go. Here you go.
You know where I'm going with that. Let it
Yeah,
rock
You
out.
know the one I want to see. Conor Ben and Blair the Flair.
Oh, Conor Ben and Blair. Oh God, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Conor Ben and Blair the Flair.
Yeah. Which could be dangerous for Ben if he takes Cobb lightly. Yeah.
Nobody will take Cobb lightly.
Better not. Better not.
All right, my brother. So we're gonna get on to the last article of the day, but definitely not the least, right? Coming from GiveMeSport.com, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. Highly anticipated fight coming up Saturday, April 30th, MSG, Madison Square Garden. Couple reasons why there's gonna be a lot of pressure running up to this fight, and the building should be packed. It's being billed as the biggest fight ever in women's boxing. First time 2 female fighters are headlining a combat sports event at MSG. So I want to get your impact on, first of all, what do you think about this fight? What's the overall impact on women's boxing? And you know what I'm saying? What do you think like the atmosphere is going to be?
It's so much. I'm thinking Trojan horse, because this was a good way to sneak in the Pauls in a way. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what I told you. Remember I told you about that Donald Trump situation, Jake Paul looking like Donald Trump? Now shit ain't starting to look, I'm just talking about it, like shit ain't starting to look too bad. You know what I'm saying? Right? So we look at Jake Paul and he's advocating for this and that, you know, health insurance and doing this. So he put it on the line for Amanda Serrano in women's boxing as far as attaching his name. Now, and to show you again, I hate promoting certain people because their antics get misconstrued, but the honor in it, he had a little bit of a disagreement with Clarissa Shields. And he spoke to his word differently to the point where they had a middle ground and said, look, Jake Paul might be at my next fight. So it's what he's doing. He's being a disruptor. He's being a disruptor to how the system usually go. Now, is there benefit for him? And of course, but if you can't be used, you're useless. Now, this fight, I'm gonna be there. That's number one. So I'm gonna be going crazy. And you know, the magnitude of it is you have an Irish fighter coming to New York City, right? Think of what's my movie from back in the day, Gangs of New York, right? So you got the Irish New York connection, the UK, you got Puerto Ricans in New York, Amanda Serrano, and New Jersey, and Philadelphia, and Connecticut, right? Yo, this fight is gonna be crazy. And talking about, is Serrano, ready to move up? Can she bring her? She ain't really had no power, but her technique is just so on. I compare her style, that type, to Shakur Stevenson. It's just gonna batter you all day long. So it might not be, necessarily that one punch power, but this is a big fight. This is a big fight for boxing, period. I'm excited.
Folks, I say boxing. I don't say women's boxing and men's boxing. But this is social commentary on the men. We can get Amanda Serrano, the GOAT, GWOAT, 41-1 with 30 knockouts, 7 world titles, 7 weight divisions. Olympian Katie Taylor, 20-0, right? That fight can be made. But here we are talking about, when are we going to make Bud Crawford and Errol Spence?
That's a great point.
Kudos to both champions. I love both of them. I just happen to believe that Amanda Serrano is in the top 5 of boxers right now, pound for pound. I'm not saying women boxing, I'm saying boxing. Period. I love Amanda Serrano. I had a chance to be at a Katie Taylor fight here in Philadelphia. You love both of them. And ironically, despite Serrano having an extensive professional career, we have to remember that Taylor had 288 amateur fights.
Oh, wow.
And she's 2 years older than Serrano. Most people think Serrano is older than Katie Taylor, but she's not. One's 33 and the other is 35. It's a great, great, great matchup. Man, I'm just happy to see the effort they're putting behind marketing this fight. It should be sold out. It's a great matchup, right up there with how can I put it?
I was
Ali
gonna
versus Fraser.
You know what? Because it's at MSG too. I was gonna say that it is that big. It is that big. MSG.
It is that big.
Come on.
And kudos to both fighters. We have a fight that we all want to see.
All right. Well, listen, man. I don't know. I know King Amin, you're gonna be in the building, man. I might have to get my tickets. Is it sold out yet?
I don't know, man, but you better wait outside or something. They'll let you in. This one's big.
I might have to get my tickets, man.
Oh man.
You know.
And this is one to take your lady friends too. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking the wife. Me and the wife going to this one. You know what I'm saying? So
I love this fight, man. There's how can I put it? There's nothing not to like about both fighters. It's just Amanda Serrano. I watched videos of her technique. It's impeccable. I mean, then you look at Katie Taylor. She's right there. Good head movement. It's going to be a very explosive fight. But
so
the lady with the power is Serrano.
Let me ask you a question, George. What do you think Serrano? Let's take Serrano first. What do you think she would have to do well to come out on top in that fight?
Well,
for somebody like me, what would I look for in terms of like an amateur eye? What does she usually do well in the ring?
She has a good jab, good movement. How can we put it? It's like Floyd Mayweather. What do you see? Her punch selection, man, is impeccable. She always seemed to throw the right punches at the right time.
Okay.
She's focused. She doesn't miss anything. You're not going to hit her with something from left field, pretty much like Floyd. And she's so disciplined and well-conditioned. She'll get you to fight her fight. Okay.
And King Amin, let's take Taylor. What does she bring in every fight? What can I look for, and what could you be guaranteed for the Taylor fans to see when they buy a ticket?
When you watching Katie Taylor, man, you are watching I don't want to use this word grossly, but like when you just like precision, you're watching precision, you're watching somebody take the fundamentals, like the Tim Duncan, about like somebody that just takes head movement, they take the jab, they know range, they know when to clinch, they just kind of all around do everything just exceptionally well. And if she have to punch on you, she can do that too. But she's just a very good boxer. Just classic technique. Tim Duncan, that's why I said it. Tim Duncan, very fundamental. She's so fundamentally sound. And that's what you're going to be looking at. This precision, seek and destroy, dialed in, figure you out, crack the code in Serrano versus like this Rolls Royce smooth. It's a V12, but you don't feel the car moving. Katie Taylor be boxing and it don't look like she be boxing, just certain little movements, man. Her defense is crazy too. She can counter, she can parry, her movement. This is it, man. Get your ticket, bro.
Adding to that, Serrano is a very good body puncher.
Oh, definitely.
Very good body puncher. It's a great matchup. It's a great matchup. I'm so happy the women they are showing the men that this is how you do it. We're still talking about Crawford and Spence.
Right. It's a great point. Great point.
And maybe after this fight, we'll have Serrano fight Keith Thurman because he doesn't want to fight anybody.
All right, that's a great place to leave it. All right, so listen, brothers. Last night was a big night. So we're gonna start across the pond, Leeds, England. We got Ebanie Bridges versus Maria Cecilia Roma, 10-round fight for Roman's IBF title. George already started talking about it a little bit, but You know, we kind of want to elaborate a little bit. What were you guys impressed by? Let's start with specifically Ebanie Bridges, of course. So King Amin, let's start with you this time. What were you impressed by during the fight? And you know, what's your impressions coming out of it?
A lot of people, and I've given Bridges a lot of flack. I called her the Lady Triple G. Sometimes she liked to keep her head on the line and just bang. But what I seen her do yesterday, she was catching and rolling. Just working, of course, working the body. The uppercut's her favorite punch. When she works the jab and works off of the jab, she throws counters to the body. She can really, really, really box. She can really box. And I'm just being real. I happen to think the only thing that really troubles her is that her range of motion is restricted, or that something causes her back to hunch over just a little bit too much. But if she didn't have that, you know what I mean, surface area, I mean, I think she'd be better prepared. But like, respectfully, people sleep on her. And I don't know why they do that. If you watch her in the ring, like I said, you know, sometimes she takes punches that you don't want a fighter to take. But listen to what I said. She can box, but she's a fighter. So sometimes she does abandon some of that technique. But I'm telling you, Ebanie Bridges will stand right there in the pocket and roll and catch and bang on you. I've seen her do it several times. And that's what she did yesterday.
And George, what was your impressions of the fight?
You know, I'm a fan of the blonde bomber. Haven't met her 2 years ago before a fourth fight. She was in Philadelphia, and I was training a fighter, Aaliyah Archer Davis. They sparred. And what I like about her, right? And you see someone who looks like a fashion model, but if I were going to a rough neighborhood at night, I would take Ebanie Bridges with me.
Okay.
She's not scared. She's gonna fight. She has power, and she's grace under pressure, man. So I was just so happy when she fought for a title about a year ago. She didn't win. She bounced back because she has this spirit that she's not going to be denied. And so yesterday, you know, somehow you have to make sure Ebanie boxes when she has to box, because she's truly a fighter. It doesn't matter. She's gonna fight. And she has this big heart and this big spirit. But yesterday, it was just a brilliant performance by her. And I'm so happy for her and her team, you know, her managers, her trainers. And she showed it yesterday. I mean, my God, the sky's the limit for her as far as marketability. Inside the ring and outside the ring, there are bigger fights for her. If I were an endorser, a company in the UK, the US, and down under, I'm signing her up to do car commercials, Gatorade, you name it, fashion shows, Ebanie Bridges.
Hey,
you're gonna make more money outside the ring.
I'm gonna open up a cabaret called Knockouts and have her, you know what I'm saying?
Listen,
Terrible.
It's just great when you see someone who put in the work and never gave up and was consistent. It just, and she fought someone who had a championship for 5 years. It was a great champion. So kudos to Ebanie Bridges for really digging down deep yesterday and getting that championship belt in the UK.
And she offered up. She mentioned it. She said she was willing to run it back with Shannon Courtney. That's who she lost to previously. She said she's willing to run it back. And that's what you want to hear from a champion. And like George said, she's a fighter. And I'm super, super excited to see where her career goes, because she's not just a pretty face. That girl she can box and she can fight. She can do both.
I mean, listen, we've had that conversation about her, on this program before, and listen, that I think that conversation has been gone a long time ago. You know what I mean? She's been proving it in the ring for a while. All right. So next fight, I believe this was on the undercard. Skye Nicolson versus Bet Connolly, 4-round featherweight fight. So George or King Amin, whichever one of y'all want to jump in and get your impressions on that fight.
Go ahead, George.
What were you impressed by, and what stood out in that fight? specifically?
Skye's a very impressive boxer. You love her spirit. You love her boxing skills. She clearly can box. Yesterday, I just thought it was a fight where she had an opponent there. She was trying to get some rounds in, and she was really showcasing her skills against a durable opponent. So it was a great outing for her. We know she can box.
Right.
And she got some rounds in it, and I don't blame her. Sometimes you take the rounds instead of going for the quick knockout.
So here's the thing I like about it. She's another Aussie. So, you know what I mean? You make a hell of an Aussie sandwich with Bridges and Nicholson, right? And I saw something in her. She's pretty mean. She likes punching people. I saw something in this girl's eyes where she was hitting Beck Connolly, and she was respectful, but she was like, and that's what, you know, you like to see people enjoy what they do. You know what I mean? And again, another fighter to look forward to their development. And the fact that she was in there with Beck Connolly is like, to me, she's like the female Luis Collazo. Once you in there with her, or Delorme at this point, you know you're getting somewhere in terms of a notable name opponent. If you really want to help your fighter as a promoter, get a match with an opponent that has a name. So Beck Connolly definitely has a name, and this was a good way. And as a matter of fact, Skye Nicolson made her debut in San Diego last week or 2 weeks ago. So now she back, you know, in the UK, because she's from Australia. She's already hitting the world tour. Her third fight, she may do that one at home in Australia. This is how you market a fighter. And she has the skills, not just, you know, the other prerequisites and all that stuff, man. So I'm big on Skye Nicolson. Glad to see her in another outing, and I'm looking forward to seeing her again.
And she has great personality. Once again, very marketable.
Yeah.
All right. So coming back to the States, Minneapolis, Minnesota, we had a Showtime event also as well. The first fight we're going to kind of talk about is Tim Tszyu versus Terrell Gasha. It's a 12-round middleweight, 12-round junior middleweight fight, excuse me. So King Amin, let's get your thoughts of that fight. You know, what were you specifically impressed by, and what stood out to you?
I was impressed and not impressed, and I just mean that like not even in a clever way. I was actually not impressed with Tim Tszyu once I saw him in there with somebody that was such a sound boxer. When I look at Gausha, you know he's a gym guy. He's obviously a professional fighter, but you know he got his fundamentals down pat for the most part. And that experience alone, I knew was going to give Tim Tszyu some problems. I understood that Tim Tszyu fought a lot of, you know, no-name competitors, if you will, but I also understood that when you fight in no names, you're supposed to get him up out of here. So whether the power was real or not, we was going to be able to see. Funny thing about the fight, it went the other way in the beginning because it was Tim Tszyu who went down off a little flash knockdown. I think it was more nerves than power, because going back to what I did not or was not impressed with Tim Tszyu, very flat-footed, just walking forward. Now, from the upper body, he can do some pretty sneaky, tricky boxing stuff. Like he was, you know, like Gausha was coming in with the high guard, so he was trying to like knock his hand down and then fake the uppie and come with an overhand. Nice little cute stuff, but he was just so flat-footed. And if Gausha decided to move even a little bit, he could give Tszyu some problems. So I'm like, wow, Tszyu's got a long way to go. But I'm also saying to myself, Terrell Gausha is respectfully a very good B-level opponent that if you're trying to announce yourself, this is a good guy to do it against. Plus, this is his first fight in the United States. Time zone could have threw him off. So, it was a pretty good outing overall. So I liked the fight. I liked it.
George, what were your thoughts?
You know, I have to apologize. I didn't see that fight. I was at the Pennsylvania Golden Glove last night watching 10-year-old Malik, the body snatcher, Walker, score a second-round knockout with the body shot.
Oh, but, tell us about that. Tell us a little bit about that. Where was the event?
Oh, the Pennsylvania Golden Glove was up at the Upper Darby Firehouse yesterday. And my friend Greg Hackett has a young man. He's 10 years old. First time in my life I've ever been to Golden Gloves where I saw someone get stopped with a body shot. This 10-year-old kid, I had to call him the body snatcher, Malik Walker, went out there. He was warming up in the dressing room. He looked like Tommy Hearn throwing those right hand with those long arms. Then this kid just calmly went out there, you know, set it up, boxed, set it up in the second round, and just boom, solar plexus shot, put his opponent down, genuflecting like he was in the Vatican on both knees, couldn't get up, counted him out. And that was it, a 10-year-old kid. Then he did an interview with me, and he said, you know, I'm special. And I had to agree with that young man. So I'm looking after him. He is special, very humble, very talented. And shout out to Greg Hackett for developing this young man. And he trains at Bosie's gym. So I know this kid is watching Duran Ennis.
All right.
That's a good place to be
that.
too. Be in Bosie's gym. That's a good place to be.
Good place to be. You're in there with Duran Ennis and Bosie Ennis. Hey, you got to pick up some tips being in that gym.
All right, well, definitely appreciate that. All right, so King Amin, got a couple more fights we might check in and, you know, get your opinion on. Mikel Rivera versus Joseph Adorno. This was a 10-round lightweight fight. Did you see anything there that interested you or that kind of stood out?
Well, you know, Michel Rivera has an interesting persona. He likes to represent himself as some sort of Muhammad Ali reincarnate. But the truth is, he looks a hell of a lot more like Muhammad Ali than this Nico Ali Walsh kid. Well, but that's another story for another day. But a good fight. Both Adorno and Rivera tested each other. But Rivera, you know, he's a pretty good boxer. He's got some things, you know, truthfully, I'd like to see. I mean, was 135. 135 is pretty crowded, and it's a lot of action he could get. You know, I'm not sold on the whole Ali thing other than the little baby flat top, man. But you know, let him keep doing his thing until somebody proves him wrong, you know. But Adorno was a good, and see, Adorno, you know, Adorno messed up because he was repping Jersey, and then he started repping Allentown, and from there it just went downhill. So, you know what I mean? If he would have stayed repping Jersey, he might have made.
Listen, man, you gotta listen. When you building your fan base, people are very particular about that. You know what I'm saying? People are very particular about that. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to the Adorno brothers.
They're gonna let you bounce back and forth. You know? All right. Listen, did you want to talk about the Rodriguez Velasco fight?
Nah.
About the way about?
Nothing else was really, you know, on my radar other than the Zook fight. Like I said, you know, it was so much action yesterday. You know, it was a lot to cover, but what stood out to me. And you know, I'm looking forward to April's, you know, action-packed month. You know, we got Shakur Stevenson fighting Oscar Valdez. I mean, it's so much more coming, man. You always got to look back and do your history. But Jay, I'm telling you, it's so much moving forward, man. We're gonna be moving full speed ahead, man.
All right, man, and you know I can't let today go without giving a shout out to Isaiah Wise. You know, definitely a fighter out of Philadelphia, New Jersey. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Strawberry Mansion. We came, you know, Koya, you usually come out to support him.
Absolutely.
King Amin, but you know, he fought this Friday, March 25th, over there at 2300 Arena. Hard fought battle against Cameron Crail. You know, this was a split decision that he won. Definitely a lot of energy in the building right now. Is leading for Fight of the Year. So, you know, he's going to rest up a bit, but, you know, I'm going to let you know when he gets back in the ring because, you know, we always come out, support families. So
absolutely.
We're going to have him on this program soon.
And Jason, I would have loved to be in that corner with his trainer, Reverend Elvin Thompson, the same man who trained Frank the Animal Fletcher and Anthony Two Guns Fletcher.
Okay. I'm in school.
I wish I had
right now, George. I'm listening.
I wish I had a mic just to hear what the Rev was saying in that corner. It's classic, man. I wish I had the recording from that corner because I know Rev is going to say something classic.
Listen, and I would never pretend that, you know, my eye and, you know, when me and Koya, when me and King Amin put, you know, when he put this together and you know, I was a part of it, you know, the only way I agreed is that I could have an amateur eye and ask the questions, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm saying this, you know, as an amateur point of view, but, you know, Zay, we call, Isaiah, we call him Zay, he was in a battle that night. There's no doubt about it. You know what I mean? But when you talk about toughness and you talk about resilience and you talk about a guy that's gonna leave it in the ring and never give up, that's Zay, and he won because he deserved it. You know what I mean? So it was a great fight. I wish y'all could have been there. And we looking forward to, great things for him and his family,
Definitely,
When
man.
you talk about a coach who's battle tested, man, when you can train Frank the Animal Fletcher and be in that corner, you have to say for the Rev with his experience.
Yes.
I would have loved, I like sitting next to the corner when I'm in press pro, just to hear what's being said. And it would have been great just to hear the tapes of what Rev was telling Isaiah as they're going through that fight and what he had to do to keep him motivated. Isaiah's a tough guy, but just to hear the instructions, man, I love hearing the instructions when they come back to the corner.
Right. Well, listen, we hoping to get him, get him on this program, very soon. I know, it's a little soon right now, so he's gonna rest up right now, enjoy his victory. Hopefully we're gonna get him on in the next couple of weeks. But George, it was a pleasure meeting you. We definitely appreciate you. I want to give you an opportunity to promote yourself before we get out of here.
Well, my friend, they follow me on IG, the Pope of Pugilism.
All right.
And
all right.
That's it. I'm always posting. Or if people want to check out some of the things we've done with Chris Toney, Boxing 396 on YouTube. We have over 200 and my God, how many videos we've interviewed? Mike McCollum, Eddie Hearn, who else? Jeff Mayweather, King Amin, you name it, Brian Jennings. I think we have about some interviews with Boots Ennis.
Ozzy as well. Everybody, man.
From the time he was an amateur to now with Jerome Boots Ennis. Who else? My God, Julian Williams.
Derek Ennis. You interviewed J-Rock, everybody.
J-Rock, you name it, man.
Eddie Hearn.
Eddie Hearn, we've interviewed God knows how many people. So please check it out. Boxing 396.
All right. All right. Well, like I said, George, we appreciate you coming on. I know you got the relationship with King Amin, but we hopefully we can bring you on, make this a semi-regular thing because the chemistry you guys have in terms of talking about the topics, I think that's a good thing. So I'm gonna talk to him a little bit more behind the scenes, but hopefully we can bring you on. I know you're a busy man, but hopefully maybe on a monthly basis or something like that, and we can kind of get that, keep that chemistry going.
And this was fun, man. I think we're going to trace our history since King Amin, I'm Jamaican and he's Jamaican.
Oh, that's right.
I think we might be related somewhere along the line.
That's right.
For sure.
All right, King Amin, before we get out of here, make sure you promote yourself, tell the people where they can find you. And before, I sign off, I just want to thank everybody that takes the time, to listen. We really appreciate it. You could be doing anything else. So we want to thank you for subscribing, listening, liking the videos. King Amin, let everybody know where they can find you.
Of course, King Amin of Essex 1 on Instagram and King Amin of Essex 1 on Twitter. Also on the Boxing Voice TVV podcast. I'm out here. We in here. We want to thank y'all, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us as always on these championship rounds. Take us out with the bell.
Later.